welcome to section 10. This is linked lists, and in this section, I decided to make a diagram to translate how some of this code looks, because it can be a little cryptic at times, and I feel like a visual representation, it's always helped me a lot, and I think it'll do the same for you guys. Okay, so what is a linked list? So a linked list is a collection of nodes that is linked together through these little arrows that you see here. Um, so this is what a node is. This node class is going to have a constructor with data, and data can be anything. These nodes that you see, which are these little boxes here, they can be anything you want them to be. You can store anything inside of them. In our case, we're just using strings. And you're probably not going to store anything outside of those for now anyway. So yeah, but just know you can put objects in there, numbers, anything you want. Then, so here that's where we're storing the data that we're passing into the constructor into its own internal data attribute. And then we have another one called next, and next is by default set to null. Um, Next, this is the crux of all of this. Okay, the next is what's pointing to the next node. Okay, so if this was a type, this would be a type of node. Okay. So it's like a node inside of a node, right? In programming, this is pretty much what's called a pointer. Okay. A pointer in programming is a reference in memory. Okay. It's a memory type, right? That's pretty low level. It's very low level actually, and this isn't something you're gonna ever really see outside of academia or if you're just, into programming really low level stuff. Um, Pointers are primarily used in the C programming language. They also exist in C++, but they typically aren't used. Not always. I guess it depends. I think it really does. It really depends. Most of the time, if you're using C++ and you have to use pointers in them, there's what's called smart pointers, and that just automatically handles all that for you. Anyway, pointers are within the scope of just this lesson, but you don't really need to know them outside of what I'm going about to show you. So don't worry about what smart pointers are and all this other stuff. I'm just giving you a little background. Um, the main thing that you need to know is that this dot next is a pointer, and it's going to point to, or it's an arrow. In our case, it's these arrows here. Okay, and all it's doing is it's equaling. Right now, it equals null, but it's going to equal this next node. Okay, and this is how you create that chain, right? This is how you create that linked list. It's a list of linked nodes, and that's how you get the name. Um, so in this case, we're going to ignore head and temp and these two arrows for right now. We're just going to focus on what's here, just on the linked list itself. So here is the box, right? This box is the node itself. And you see we have a little divider here in the middle. Okay, on the left side you have the value, or in our case the data, right? That's this thing here, this one. And then we have the next. Next is going to be in this box. And in this box you see we have an arrow that's pointing to the next node. Okay, and then the next node has an A in it, and that's going to be this one here. So we have J, we have A, V, A. Okay. So J, A, V, A. And you can see they're all pointing to the next one. And the last one is pointed to null, and I'll go over that in a second. Okay. So again, here's the data. Here's the next value. And we're pointing the next value. We're making it equal to the next node. Again, here's A. Here's next. We're making next point to the next node. Here's the data again. Next node is A again. And that's how you do this. Okay. So that's pretty much the basics of a linked list. And the ending, so this null, this is the terminating. This is the terminating node. Okay, this means that we are at the end of it. We're at the end of the node, and there's no more There's no more nodes. So this is how you can, if you have to ever loop through these, which that's what you typically do with linked lists, you do a lot of looping, um, and you loop through it. And how do you know you get to the end? Well, you get to the end when you hit this null here. Okay, that's how you know. So how do you create this linked list? How do you link them? Well, this is how you do it. If you look so in line 8 through 11, we create these nodes, node J, A, V, and A again. Well, I got this one called node A1 just because, well, I can't already have node A is already taken. Um, so here's how you do it, okay? Here's how we're going to link J. We're going to make it point to A, okay? So we have J dot next. So we're taking J dot next and we're setting it equal to A. And that's what this did right here. We just set it equal to that. Okay. And then A dot next is going to be equal to V. So A's dot next is going to point to V. And then V dot next is going to equal A. And that's it, right? And when we create A, by default, you can see the next is going to be null. So that's this here. Okay. And again, this null, this terminating null, this is what tells us we're at the end of the linked list. And we're going to need that when we loop through this. Okay, and I'm going to go through that. That's the next thing I'm going to go through right now. So in, so I have this here as well, const head equals j, and that's what this is. So that's what this head is. So this head is another type of pointer, okay, and we're setting it equal to this j, okay, this j node. The reason we're doing that is you in a linked list, you always have to keep track of your head, okay? That is very important because what can happen is you can take your head node, if you just use the head node and you move it around, well, if you move it to A, you just lost J, okay? You cannot go back to J. There's no other pointer, there's no arrow pointing back to it. So that's why it's very important to never lose track of your head. Do not ever manipulate the head pointer unless you are inserting something in the beginning. So if you want to create another node in front of J, I don't know, call it number one, you create this node one, and then you make that next point to J, or in this case head, and then you move head back. Okay. Do not ever lose your link. Do not ever lose head. If you lose head, then well, you broke your linked list essentially. So it's very important to keep track of that. Okay. Um, so that's what head is for. I just have that because in your assignment as well, in your assignment, you're going to be creating a linked list class, okay? And you're going to have to do a bunch of different methods in there. And one of the biggest methods you're going to have to do is this head. So you're going to have to keep track of the head, okay? And the way you're going to do that is by giving the head that you're going to create a attribute inside of your linked list, okay? And you're going to create it and you're going to name it head and you're going to set that first node in the constructor equal to head, and you never want to lose track of head. So whenever you're in your other methods, whenever you're manipulating things, this is how you're going to do it. Okay, you're going to do it with a temp. You're going to let temp equal head and then manipulate temp. Okay, do not manipulate head directly. Okay, that's you're gonna end up losing it, and then yeah, just don't, because then it won't work for the other methods either. So you have to use temp. Okay. Okay, so here's our temp, right? So we said temp is going to equal to whatever head's equal to. Well, head's equal to this, so they're going to point to the same thing, okay? And then we have our string j, or string j. We're going to add j to the string in a second, but I got ahead of myself. Okay, so here we have string. Okay, so let's make a little text here, and we're going to keep track of what this text says, okay? So string is going to be right there, and we're going to add it as we go along, okay? So here is how you iterate through a linked list once you create it. Okay. Once you create the linked list, okay, you do temp. Well, temp is not null. Okay, so we're here. This is temp, and we're gonna keep. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna scan through each of these until we get to this null at the end. So what we're saying is while temp is not null, so while it's not null, we're gonna execute what's in the middle of here. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we are going to say string will plus equals, which is we're appending the string, temp.data. Okay. So, okay, let's do that. So temp.data. So temp right now is on J, and the data inside of J is J, right? This first node. So let's go ahead and add J. Boom. There it is, our first one. Okay, now we're saying J, or J, temp is going to equal temp.next. Okay, so what is temp.next? Well, temp currently is pointing to this node right here, and the next is here, and next is pointing to this A. So that means temp is going to move to the A node. Okay, so we're going to take this, we're putting it right here, just like that. That's what that just did. So this is a very common pattern. Okay, you guys, this is how you iterate through a linked list. This is the most basic way to do it. Okay, you do temp equals temp.next, and that's it. You keep going. Okay, and now we're back at our conditional check here in the while loop. Is temp null? It is not. Okay, let's keep going. Now we're going to take the temp data, which now is this A, and we're going to append it to our string again. Okay, let's do it. We have A. We have JA. Next, we're going to move it again. We're going to say temp is going to equal temp.next. Okay, let's do it again. Move this here. Move this here. All right, again, we're at temp. Is temp equal to null? It's not. Okay, let's add the J to it now. Append that. We're going to make this J, and we're going to move it to the next node. So now we are here. Okay, next is A. We're going to add A again. Also, don't forget we checked if this is null, it's not. And we're going to go next again. So go next. Okay, now it is null. Temp is indeed null. So we stop, we terminate our loop, and we're done. Okay, and now we are going to go and we're gonna console log the string, and we're going to console log temp. Okay, this is supposed to be temp. And what we'll do is we'll console log the head as well. We'll do that data. Well, we'll just do this because it's not going to. There we go. Data. So the reason I can't do dot data on this one is because it's actually going to be null. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can show you guys that the head node didn't change, but the temp node did. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's see what this does. There it is. You see. So here's our string, JAVA. We have our temp, which is null, and our head, which is equal to J. Okay. Now, if I was to just do this, I think it'll just print out object, I'm pretty sure. So we can't really see what it is. Yeah, it's just printing out the object. But you can kind of see here. So here's the node. Here's the next node. Here's another node, another node. And so you see, it tells you the data of each one of these. And then here's the data for it, which is J. So that means that we are pointing to this node here from the head. And we did not change anything from the temp. Okay, the temp did not change, or the head did not change, but the temp did, right? Because we used the temp to change it. Now, if we were to use head here um, instead of temp, so let's do that. Let's say this will be head. Now I'm going to show you guys. This is how you lose track of your head, and you don't want to do that. Never lose your head. So always keep your head intact. So when we do it now, you can see head is null. Okay, because now we lost it. Now the head's all the way over here, right? So what happens is this ends up being, if I can grab it, there we go. This ends up being all the way over here. Okay, and then if we're all the way over here with our head, you can't go back. So you just lost all of these other values. You know, you just lost everything because you manipulated the head. But if we keep our head back here, like we're supposed to, now you can call it again. You can say temp is going to be equal to head. and you can start your iteration over if you wanted to. So this will move all the way back here again, and you can iterate again, okay? Because you know where the beginning of your linked list is, and it's very important. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. For your assignment, this is how you have to iterate. When you're iterating, this is how you do it. Okay, and there's going to be some edge cases you guys have to be careful with as well when you're adding um, when you're adding one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to add nodes to the beginning of the linked list, like I mentioned earlier, and what that's going to require you to move the head actually then to that new node. So don't forget to do that. Appending to the tail, I think, is a little bit easier. Um, you just have to iterate all the way through to the end and then just hook in, make this next here equal the new node, and that's it. So, and then there's a couple of other tricky ones. There's a deletion one. There's going to be one where you're going to have to delete a certain value from the linked list as well. I'm going to link a, a short little article on how to do that as well in the notes. So you guys will have that, okay? All right. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.